First to our ongoing coverage of political candidates not named Donald Trump. One man considering throwing his hat in the ring is Harvard law professor Lawrence Lessig, who's released a series of videos explaining his candidacy, including this one.
If you're among the wealthiest 0.02% of Americans, you can afford to contribute millions each election cycle to candidates and super PACs to ensure that every bit of legislation in this country benefits you. But if you're like me and the other 99.98% of Americans, your vote has near zero effect on what our government actually does. I want to run for president with a single purpose: to pass the law that would give us our democracy back, and after that, I would step down.
An interesting proposition in a crowded overall field. And joining me now is the man himself, Lawrence Lessig. Lawrence, it's good to see you.
Great to be back.
So flesh it out a little bit. What's the problem that your single-issue candidacy would be trying to resolve?
Well, what we all know in our gut to be true, that our government's broken. It's catastrophically unable to deal with the most important issues. Whether you're on the left or the right, this government doesn't work. As Elizabeth Warren puts it, the system's rigged. So what follows from that is we got to fix this democracy first. If you're going to talk about taking on Wall Street, you're going to talk about dealing with the debt, you're going to talk about climate change, none of that is possible until we deal with this corruption first. So that's what I want to do. I want to fix the democracy by passing a law that would break this corrupted system. And once that happens, we would have the opportunity for the next president.
Citizens Equality Act is what it's called. Give us the short version, the Cliff Notes version. What would this thing do? The
basic idea is we've lost the idea of a representative democracy. The reason we can't get anything done is that a tiny, tiny fraction has captured control over government because they have enormous power. If we could just—
Through their pocketbooks.
Through their pocketbooks primarily, but not just. But the point is, if we could just get back to the idea of a representative democracy—
How do we do that?
Well, we make it so candidates do not rely on a tiny fraction of the 1% to fund their campaigns.
How do you do that?
We have something like bottom-up vouchers that everybody could have to help fund their campaigns. Everybody gets a $50 voucher, for example. So candidates are not looking to the richest to fund their campaigns. They're looking to all of us.
Government-funded 50, so public financing.
Well, let's make sure we understand where the money comes from. It's our money that they're returning back to us, a rebate of the first $50 you pay in taxes. Absolutely.
What's number two?
Number two is to end this system of political gerrymandering where the candidates pick the voters rather than the voters pick the candidates. What that produces is an incredible number of districts where the minority has no representation in Congress because the minority knows that the majority representative doesn't even care about them because they don't need that.
What's number three?
Number three is to end the stupid ways in which we suppress votes in America by voter ID laws or ways that we make it hard for people to vote. All of these make it so we as citizens are equal citizens, which would crack the corrupted system in Washington.
I want to get back to the money and the vouchers and that sort of thing. So the vouchers are here. It is an egalitarian notion, and Citizens United is here, allowing people to give unlimited millions of dollars. How does this work with this still on the scene?
Well, we absolutely have to, in the long run, fix the problem of super PACs. And that's either by the Supreme Court fixing its mistake, which I think the Supreme Court will, or the Supreme Court being changed through the appointment of a new justice or through an amendment. All of those are necessary, but we can't wait for constitutional change. We have to do a change right now that would, I think, solve 70% of the problem overnight and then lead to the next changes that would fix the bigger problem.
Let's deal with the mechanics. So you said that if you raise $1 million by Labor Day, correct?
Yes.
You're in the race, and you're close. You told us on the radio today, 700 grand, is that where you are?
We're about 750 right now.
Okay, so you enter the race. You are a single-issue candidate. You're elected President of the United States. The Citizens Equality Act, assuming through some fashion you can get it through Congress and to your desk. You then resign after this, and your vice president becomes President of the United States.
Yes, not because it wouldn't be the greatest honor to be able to serve as president, but because it's the only way to make it clear that this is the mandate of the American people. This is the one thing they insist be done. So after this is passed, I would resign. The vice president would become president.
Okay, let's talk about somebody I think it's fair to say is a strange bedfellow with you on this particular issue. People have seen him a lot lately. Here he is.
I was a businessman. I give to everybody. When they call, I give. And you know what? When I need something from them, 2 years later, 3 years later, I call them. They are there for me. And that's a broken system.
Now, has anybody in this race highlighted your issue better than Donald Trump?
No, and I couldn't afford to pay him, but I wish I could, because finally on the Republican side too, the curtain's been pulled back. Now, there are 100 things about Donald Trump I don't like at all, but the fact that he is reminding Republican voters too of what we all in our heart of hearts know is incredibly important.
But isn't he taking people in the wrong direction? The good news is he's cracking their minds open about the issue that you care most deeply about, and his solution is not quite the Citizens Equality Act. The solution is run billionaires and support billionaires. We'll self-fund, and that solves the problem. People seem to be cheering him on. Yeah, he's going to self-fund. That doesn't help at all, does it?
No, it doesn't. But, you know, I think people can be reminded pretty easily that we fought a revolution about this idea. Aristocracy was what we defeated, and they went back to Britain. The idea of America is not that the richest should control us. The idea of America is that we have equal citizens in a representative democracy, and we have to get back to that simple idea.
How do you get this through? I mean, you know, this old tired line, which I love, is the only thing members of Congress stand for is re-election. Well, how do you get people who essentially pass incumbency protection laws? That's what they spend a lot of their time doing. How do you ever get them to buy in any of these things, even if it turns out the American people said, yeah, I want a single issue guy, and he's the guy?
Yeah, but I think the thing we have to do is to make this into a fundamental mandate. Now, the tradition is actually Congress passes pretty quickly what the president puts as the premier legislation of that administration. But in addition to that, we would have the power of this mandate, the single mandate, and in the campaign leading up to the election, we would be calling out every single representative to ask that representative whether they would stand with the people's referendum. These together aren't a sure shot. They are the best shot, because if you think about this compared to the probability with anybody else, it's an order of magnitude more likely.
Yeah, but it seems to me that the good news is Donald Trump cares about the issue, even if you don't agree with the solution. Do the people care about the issue? You guys, your PAC ran a ton of candidates, I think in 2014. Virtually all of them lost at a lower level, congressional level, that sort of thing. If you can't win at that level, what's the real end game here? The end game is not electing Lawrence Lessig president. I assume the end game is forcing your issue front and center so that other candidates, the Sanders of the world, the Clintons, the Trumps, whomever, embrace it. Is that not where you're doing?
The end game is to fix the democracy. And in fact, I think the difference between what happened in the lower, in Congress last year and what we would do here is that people didn't believe any change was possible. You know, we did a poll, we found 96% of Americans believe it important to reduce the influence of money in politics, but 91% didn't think it was possible. That's the politics of resignation. But if you can crack that resignation, if you can give them a sense that here is a plan that might actually do something, then I think the passion and the incredible frustration that people feel about this issue, shown by their love for a man as crazy as Donald Trump, would finally steer us in a direction that might get us a democracy that works.
Beautifully put, Lawrence Lessig. Good luck. Great to see you.